Wally of the Week is when we get to choose a couple of people and nominate who should be the Wally of the Week. Please send them in to us. We're always happy to hear your ideas. But I've got to launch, guys, with Dr. Monique Ryan, the Teal member for Kooyong in Melbourne, who came out with one of the dopiest, most ridiculous, silliest ideas I've ever heard. We actually elect these people. Fortunately, I didn't have anything to do with electing this particular person, but some of you did, I imagine. Sat down there in Kooyong, probably not viewers of this show. But she's come out with the idea that we name heat waves after fossil fuel companies. This is the level of intelligence of people sitting in the federal parliament.
I think fossil fuel companies should jump on this because guess what? People actually like a little bit of heat during summer. It's called summer, Monique. It's if she wants to rename summer after BHP, then go for it.
BHP summer. Yeah, exactly. Rio Tinto summer.
So ridiculous. I don't know if it's just attention seeking from Monique
it's certainly that.
whether she... Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think she genuinely thinks these are genius ideas that are going to make the country better, which is even more worrying than if she was just attention-seeking.
The hilarious thing about Monique Ryan is she's a great demonstration of that intellectual fallacy, this idea that if you're an expert in one thing, you're an expert in everything else. She thinks because she went to medical school and she's a doctor and she's an expert on medicine, that she's an expert on climate change, and that this means that she gives her the license to say, oh, we should call it Heat Wave Santos. That's literally what she said. Now, I'd like to have my summer maybe sponsored by Mitsubishi Air Conditioning or something like that, because that's how I like to spend my summer.
Absolutely.
Or the pool company.
So a definite contender there for Wally of the Week. Monique Ryan rising right to the top of the list there. But, James, you've got an international contender. This is a first. This is an absolute first.
A whole country.
Well, we're giving it to Spain. We're giving it to the socialist ruling coalition in Spain, and particularly their Minister for Inclusion, someone called Elma Saiz. Now, you know, this is one of these wild stories because it really goes to the heart of the whole thing where they say, oh, you know, the Great Replacement's just a conspiracy. Well, what they've done now is they've announced a plan, guys, to regularize the status of at least 500,000 illegal migrants in Spain. And the idea behind this, they say, is to counter the influence of the far right. So literally what they are trying to do is, well, because the population that they've got right there doesn't like what's going on when it comes to immigration and a whole lot of other things, they'll just get some new voters in to shift the electoral map. And this is exactly what's happening in the United States. This is what Joe Biden tried to do when he opened the borders. This is what Trump is fighting against. So, yeah, this is, I mean, it's more than Wally. It's really sinister.
I recall Susan Lee having an almighty tantrum and sending Jacinta Price to the backbench for observing the same phenomenon happening here, because a Labor pollster talked about it, and Senator Price had the shameful idea of talking about that wisdom during a radio interview, and now she's been
on the backbench,
cast to the backbench.
Unbelievable. The Labor Party admitted during the 80s and 90s that bringing in lots of immigrants into Australia was good for them electorally. In other words, they got more voters. In other words, they were swinging elections through immigration. I've just been talking earlier in the show about the nearly 2 million people Labor have brought in the last 4 years. Australia has never, James, seen an influx of people, of immigrants on this scale, ever. What effect is it having electorally? And if so, you've just belled the cat on what they're doing it in Spain deliberately to counter conservatism.
And, you know, you were talking earlier, and I hate the phrase social cohesion. It's just the worst pair of words ever. But, you know, they talk about how social cohesion is breaking apart, while at the same time they're doing things which, in the middle of a housing crisis, by the way, jamming the country full of migrants. In the middle of a social cohesion crisis, we're bringing in migrants from countries and cultures that do not necessarily share, well, people aren't raised in Western values and values of democracy and high-trust societies. This is all really, really dangerous, and they're the ones undoing it, and they're saying, oh, no, it's the far right. It's the far right that's bringing up social cohesion. It's a lie.
If Conservatives were smart in this country and elsewhere in the world, they would adopt some of those so-called culture war policies that Donald Trump has so successfully implemented. And in doing so, he has won large segments of the Latino vote, a vote that people thought he could never, ever win over, because those people are, like many migrant groups, socially conservative. So you can actually make migrant groups who traditionally vote heavily left become conservative voters, but you have to give them something to vote for, just like you have to give other conservatives something to vote for. They're not just going to support you because you want them to. So the coalition in this country, or what was formerly the coalition, needs to recognise some of these patterns we're seeing are bigger than Australia. This phenomenon is happening around the Western world.
Absolutely. Rita, you've got, speaking of, New York and immigration policies there, Zohran Mamdani.
We do. The lovely new socialist communist mayor who New Yorkers have decided they're going to have destroyed their city. James, you're a New Yorker. How do you feel about how he's gone so far?
Well, it's actually really interesting that we bring up Zohran Mamdani, because one of the things, the biggest predictor of whether or not somebody voted for Mamdani, the communist socialist mayor who is going to destroy what I've always thought was basically the greatest city in the world, was whether or not you were born in the U.S. or not. So it was actually foreign voters who got him over the line, and got him over the line by much less,
and
by the way,
voters.
and affluent voters as well. So it was this weird coalition.
I think we have a grab.
Let's have a little
him.
grab of him talking down to us about the state budget.
Yes.
New York City, it's budget season. A budget is more than a spreadsheet. It's whether the library is open, whether families can afford childcare. It's a statement of our values and what kind of city we're choosing to build. It's also incredibly confusing, but it doesn't have to be. Here's what you need to know. New York City has two types of budgets: a capital budget for long-term investments like new parks or schools, and an expense budget that pays for everyday needs.
Why is it this?
I like the fact that he talks to his constituents like they're in primary school.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You have to have a primary school mindset to vote for that. And the affluent voters did back him. A lot of the foreign-born voters backed him. And he's got that creepy, permanent smile on his face. It's so inauthentic, but it's worked, James. It's fooled New Yorkers.
Yeah, well, it has fooled New Yorkers, but you know what? I've seen this movie before. We saw it before Giuliani, when David Dinkins was mayor, doing exactly the same stuff, basically defunding the police, letting race riots and pogroms go crazy in Brooklyn. It was a terrible time. We saw it with Bill de Blasio in the middle of the last decade. The problem with New York is because they have such an influx of people from outside the city come in, they don't have the corporate institutional memory of how bad things can be. People who've lived through all these things, they vote against it every single time.
But also what's interesting, what you said, Rita, increasingly, particularly the left, but all sides of politics, like to dumb down in the schools, in the education system. They dumb down the debate. They come out and say, well, budgets are really confusing. Yes, yes. But, you know, that's not good enough. And in Australia, that is one of the most common criticisms you will see now from kids coming out of school. They really don't have a clue about economics or how things like that work.